And we are back. Appreciate y'all for tapping in with us on this lovely edition of the Doing All Right podcast on a Thursday, a little Q&A Thursday. We're going to take these opportunities to listen to y'all. You know, Bryan may have some questions. I may have questions. And we just going to figure this whole thing out. Let me take this water bottle over there for our marketing people. Get on to us. Be like, hey, them water people ain't paying us money. You feel me? We got Bryan Broaddus from Radio Row. What's happening, sir?
I'm doing well, sir. Good to see you this morning, man. Thank you.
Man, I can't complain, man. Can't complain. Just some Bryan, boy, I was sitting at the house, man. You know, me and you work every day.
Yeah.
We fight and sometimes we fuss and catch attitudes, but I'm still a big fan of yours. You know what I mean? So if you on some other platform, I'll still watch it whether I'm on it or not. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
Man, I was tapped into 105.3 The Fan, man. Y'all on Radio Row. Y'all just get to talk to people. All right, cool, bet. I say, man, Jay Glazer saying some interesting stuff up here on 105.3. And sure enough, I come in the building, I sit down in the chair, and Bryan Broaddus and I got Zach Rowe in the back. Got some audio for us of the exact points of Jay Glazer saying something that I thought was interesting. So we're going to run some audio on that. Bryan's going to give us a little bit of what that was like in person, some of his thoughts. And, of course, I got a lot of thoughts on that. Zach, go ahead and run that, please.
Do you think the Cowboys are going to have an active free agency for the first time in a while?
Yep, I do. Yep.
Really?
They got some capital now. And,
let's go.
Yeah, I do.
How's the Pickens saga play out?
I don't know. That one, I don't know.
It's a tricky one.
Yeah, it is.
But franchise tag, is that the safe assumption?
I don't want to predict it. I don't know.
Now, Bryan, something I thought was interesting. Me and you, when we were working at DallasCowboys.com, and you the man over there in that building. I'm trying to work my way up there, but you the man in there. You was walking in one day. I was sitting in my seat. You walked in the door. You said, I just walked past Steven. And I say, What'd he say, Bryan? He was like, hey, man, at least we got some money to mess around with. And that was months ago when you said that. And then that's just been corroborated by Jay Glazer here. He said it with confidence. Like, he thought about the Pickens thing. And I got to comment on that. But we're going to stick on the yes, there are going to be active in free agency. Bryan, you kind of heard the same thing? You kind of feel the same way? Like Jay Glazer's not just blowing smoke in the air?
Yeah, Voch, I tell you what, man, I kind of feel like that just personally with Jerry, we've talked about the advanced age and thing like that, he hears the Voch Lombardis of the world, the Foots the Kings, the Will Steeles. He hears myself, the platforms that are saying 30 years, things have to be different. Something has to be different. You need to keep open in free agency. You need to be, the draft needs to be open. You can't just sit there and bottom fish and think you're going to be any good at it. And all of a sudden just think the team's going to be fine. I think he's hearing all the voices now. And I do believe this because, and it was very interesting to me, guys, that Jay Glazer, let me give you a little backstory. Jay Glazer and Stephen Jones are best friends. Jerry Jones is very, very close to Jay Glazer. Jay Glazer is not a throw the S up against the wall and hope it sticks guy. He's very much a guy that is connected. He doesn't sell people out, but when asked the question, he gives very honest answers. And I think this is one where we took the opportunity on 105.3 The Fan to pick his brain. And I was encouraged by his analysis or his statement of, we are going to see the Cowboys spend money come March. That was very encouraging to me. I do believe that. I do believe this is something that that Jerry and Steven, and I say this, and I'm serious about this, this 30 years that have been between championships. We talked to Darren Woodson yesterday on 105.3 The Fan. Darren Woodson even brought it up. And so there is the voices are very loud. And I think that Jerry Jones knows for them to have a successful draft, they need to have a great free agency period. And I think we're about to see that this March.
Bryan, the writing's been on the wall a little bit, and I hate saying I don't hate saying nothing. I'm lying, but I am kind of weary about saying it because people will look at me and be like, well, Voch, you're being a homer. You know what I'm saying? When I say things like, look, the Jones is kind of operating a little different this year, Brian. You know what I mean? And it's not like one thing that they've done different. We're not drafting day 2 because they're doing things different. Like we talked to 9 candidates to come and be the DC this year, Brian, and they fired Flus promptly. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't think the Cowboys messing around here. I don't know exactly what happened. Maybe one day at one of these media parties that I sneak into when I could have just walked in. I don't know. I'll ask somebody. I'll talk to Todd Williams or something, talk to Will McClay. If I bump into him, I'm like, hey, man, we could tell that it's different, but what caused this? I just want to know where the urgency comes from. I'll figure that out later, but it's clear that they are a lot more urgent this year than previous years. Previous years, Steven will tell you, man, like, hey, man, we got to figure this money out. Hey, man, we got to do some stuff. Steven now was like, hey, we finna do everything that we can. Yeah. Now, that's different because when Steven was saying, we'll see, we'll figure it out, Jerry was saying all in. Jerry be lying. Steven came out and said, yo, look, I don't know. Now, it seems like Jerry's saying less, but Steven's like, hey, we're probably going to be a little more doing this. We're going to look and find the deals and do what's best for us. So I think the writing's on the wall, bro. I think they're going to do a ton. I don't know if that necessarily means trading picks for a disgruntled pass rusher in Vegas. I hope that's the case, but it ain't guaranteed that's the case. But I do think that they're going to bring in a lot of dudes and not just like regular people.
Yeah, I think, as I mentioned earlier, I do believe, there's within the organization, there is an understanding that they have to do things differently. And you've mentioned at the start of this coaching search. And maybe it was when Jerry stood up there and blamed Brian Schottenheimer for hiring Matt Eberflus. Maybe that was the turning point for this whole thing when, then Brian Schottenheimer looked at him and said, all right, if you're going to blame me for this one, watch what I'm about to do. And Jerry and Steven, I believe, have stayed out of the way on this one. I think they have allowed Christian Parker to hire the type of coaches he wants. That's a great start. If Christian Parker feels comfortable that he's got teachers, that he's got guys that can relate to the players. We've talked to people here in Radio Row that when you ask them about the Cowboys, they say, Matt Eberflus really not relating to the players. And everything you've heard about Christian Parker has been. And if Jerry and Steven are staying out of the way and they're kind of getting their ducks in order, with Todd Williams out of Pacifica, those guys, and saying, listen, here's what the balance sheets say. All right, we got to be ready when free agency, when that bell hits, we got to be ready, not only with our own, but we got to be ready with the ones that are out there. And I just feel like that this 30 years, and Jerry and Steven don't want to call it a drought, but in reality is a sports drought. You have not been in a championship setting for over 30 years. And that is something that this fan base, who is one of the most loyal fan bases there ever was around the world, have now looked at it and said, you need to do something. Yeah, we're here, but you've got to show us that you're seriously going to do something. And the only reason, like I said, I believe this because of Jay Glazer, and maybe I'm putting too much stock in what he said, but I do believe that Jerry Jones, Steven Jones, Will McClay, Brian Schottenheimer are going to have a plan for being aggressive in free agency and making sure that this defense doesn't show up all with missing pieces and mismatched pieces and not being coached well. The coaching part of it sounds like they've got a good start on that. Now it's about, can they get the guys here? And according to Jay Glazer, they're willing to do that, and I'm encouraged by that. I'm not here trying to sell hopium, Voch. I'm really not, because but I do know the connection between Jay Glazer and Jerry Jones and Steven Jones, and Jay is not going to say that unless he's talked to both those guys about it.
Well, Brian, I don't think that you're out here selling anything or that is just nonsense in the air. Like that's the reason why I pull from my bank of recall. And like if people don't miss shows, they've heard me say before, hey, Brian walked past Steven Jones and Steve say, hey, I got money. And if Steven Jones is connected to Glazer in that way, then these two events were like months apart, Brian. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Also, for another example, in that clip, we talked about Pickens or whatever, right?
Right.
That's corroborated as well. Because if you think about think about how when media talk to brother Steven Jones and they say, hey, yo, Steven, What about Javonte Williams? We're talking to Javonte Williams' people right now, and we feel good. Hey, Steven, what do you think about George Pickens? Hey, man, I don't know. We'll figure it out. We'll talk, and we'll crunch some numbers. We'll love to have him back, but we'll see what happens. Jay Glazer saying this. He don't know. Steven don't know. Yes. Jay don't know. Now, Javonte's deal is probably easier to get done, so there's certainty there. But dealing with Mulugeta and them, dealing with George Pickens, and where do you kind of rank that guy in wide receiver money land? That's probably going to be a little more like stressful on the Joneses or whatever. So it's not like we just saying shit randomly. Like if you put the clues together and put your thinking cap on, these are things that they've been talking about. Brian, what you think when Glazer mentioned the Pickens thing? Does that give you some worry, even though we've seen the Joneses kind of talking the same way?
Voch, it was one of those things where when Zach Wolchuk asked the question. Zach, by the way, with us on the stack with him and Aisha, so talented individual there. Zach asked the question about the Pickens thing, and then he brought up the franchise tag. And man, you could see the look on Jay Glazer's face of like, I don't know how to answer this one. Sure. I don't know. And I think if Jay Glazer thought that George Pickens was a slam dunk to be signed and or franchise tag, I think Jay Glazer would have brought it up just like he did Jerry Jones and Stephen Jones spending money. I think Jay Glazer has nothing to hide. I think that he's getting a vibe that maybe this one and the question I want to ask you, if I could, is Glazer looking at this from a standpoint of the Joneses, I don't know, or is he looking from the standpoint of the player? I don't know.
I think it's the agent, Brian. I think it's the agent. I think the agent is going to pull every trick to get Pickens Jamar Chase money, and I think the Joneses value Pickens a little bit less than that, and I think they're not going to agree on the number. And I think that's going to make it real, real difficult. Now, I think we all would agree that George Pickens ain't Jamar Chase. Like, we would all agree that. But based on the production and the season that he had last year, their side has an argument. Both sides have an argument, Brian. You know what I'm saying? But it comes down to the opinion. I think he's as good as Jamar Chase. I don't think that. You know what I mean? So I really think Mulugeta is going to walk in this thing in bad faith and be like, George Pickens needs to get best receiver in the league money. I think they're going to try to pull that off. And I think the Jones is going to go no. I think if it was a different agent, Rocky Arsenal or some shit, I don't know. If it was a different agent and they say, all right, look, give us 30 and we'll be happy. They're going to disagree on the dollar amount. They're going to disagree on the risk that comes with signing Pickens for long term. And I think it's going to come down to years again. Now, this is where it's different, Brian. I don't think the Cowboys want Pickens for 5 years. I don't think I don't think this is going to be a long CeeDee Lamb, Dak Prescott, one of the offensive lineman type deals. I think the Joneses would be more open to a short deal and maybe
I think so too.
Out early. You know what I'm saying? So those variables probably going to play a little bit more, I think.
Yeah, I did. And my apologies there with this with my headset there. We went out for just a moment, but yeah, I think that to me, this could be something of a shorter term deal. I think you're right, and it might play into the hands in a good way with David Mulugeta, in him. And Pickens is a young guy. If you have a 2-3 year deal where all of a sudden George Pickens is playing at a very, very high level and it gets him back into free agency, very quickly, I think David Mulugeta would be absolutely and totally on board with that. We've seen Dak Prescott with Todd France do the exact same thing. So, at times try and get back into the fight, after a couple of years. So if they can find a way, I mean, the Cowboys want to try and do a little bit of a longer term deal because they could spread the money out. But if it comes down to them having to do a shorter term deal, I don't think that's a deal breaker for both sides.
Brian, You bumped into some people in Radio Row, and they told us some shocking news about their thoughts on Anthony Hill Jr., the linebacker from Texas. The homework assignment I gave you was, man, reach out to some people and see if you can get some other opinions on Anthony Davis Hill, just to make sure that maybe Voch and Bryan ain't tripping, and maybe we're seeing the player a little different than the rest of the league is. Bryan, did anybody follow up with you on that?
Yeah, and let me be like Jay Glazer here. Mm-hmm. This is how I address the question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And I said, I have Hill, Texas over Allen, Georgia in my linebacker stack. Is that smoking crack to you? And my response, and this was somebody within the Cowboy organization, okay? Maybe more dope than crack, but not a giant difference between the two.
All right, so, maybe dope, but not crack. Okay.
Yeah, maybe dope, but not crack. So, okay, but yeah, there's but the key word here was not a dope. Giant difference. Yeah. Not a giant difference. So hopefully there's some people in that room that are going to fight for Anthony Hill from Texas. Now, we'll see with the new coach from Georgia if we get a push. I've been in these draft room situations before where all of a sudden it's like the coach, feels like an opportunity. Like I've been with this kid. He's everything you want. High character. Don't have to worry about him on or off the field. Going to do everything prep. So Hill might be in a little trouble. But at least it made me feel better, Voch, that I wasn't like there was this huge difference between the two players in their eyes.
Voch says this, Bryan. When is a draft pick most valuable for trade? In a trade scenario, when is a draft pick more valuable? Is the 2026 like if we talking to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
Is our 2026 first round pick, right? The 12. Yeah. Is it more valuable now? Is it more valuable the day of the draft? What if it's after the draft? What if it's a Pickens deal, Bryan, where you go through the draft and then you send the next year's whatever draft? Like, is one first round pick less or more valuable at different times than another, Bryan?
It's a interesting question because
Raiders may not take 12 now, but if we're at draft day and somebody's on the board, would they think differently of that first round pick than if we called them in February with that?
Yeah, it appears just talking to people here at Radio Row that Max Crosby is interested in playing for Mike Vrabel. Now, this is going to be something that the Raiders, do they think enough of Max Crosby to try and trade him? Do they try and do something to make it work with New England? Or do they just say, listen, thank you very much, player. We really appreciate you. But we're going to trade you where we feel like we get the best value for you as a player. And if Dallas is offering 12 and maybe something else, if you're the Raiders, you're John Spytek there at the Raiders, you owe it to yourself not to sit there and say, wow, Max Crosby's a good dude, and you know what, we're going to take less for him.
Yeah.
That's a bad football team. They've got some good offensive players, but overall, that is a bad football team. There is a reason why they have the first overall pick. So where I think Dallas, you would like to believe that they can maximize during the draft. And I say during the draft because the teams now have an idea of how the board is falling. Right now, you don't know what direction this thing is going to go. Now, the Raiders are in a situation where they can say Dallas is 12th. We're looking at maybe the top wide receiver. If in fact he gets past, the Giants at 5. I mean, you've seen a lot of mock drafts where the Giants kind of been taking a wide receiver.
Sure.
You might have a possibility, of the Daniel Jeremiah mock draft has you clearly being able to take the best wide receiver on the board. So you might want to make the trade beforehand with the intent of we're going to take the best wide receiver on that board at 12.
Yeah.
And that's why you would make it early. Or you could wait and see. Now, the waiting prospect, when you're trading a big time player like this, you're going to need a couple of days to kind of get everything lined up.
Yeah.
So this is one of these things you're probably not doing on the clock. This is not the pick's going to the Raiders and here we go. Now, if all of a sudden the pick at 12, the commissioner gets up there and says the Raiders now have this pick, well, you have known that this thing got done the weeks before the draft. This was something that was worked on, maybe 2-3 days before the draft, much like what the Micah Parsons situation. Micah wasn't a draft pick compensation thing, but trading the picks, you had to talk about those things. But I would not think that this Max Crosby thing, if he were to come to Dallas, would be something that's on the clock. I think this is something that's probably done pre-draft and maybe even post-draft if, in fact, Dallas holding, picks next year.
If you trade the 12th overall pick for Max Crosby and Caleb Downs actually fell to 12, would you be sick?
Man, I know one thing.
Max can play. I know.
Max
can play.
And it's just watching the Cowboys, much like you've watched the Cowboys this last year, no pass rush. No pass rush. Yeah. This is, when you have an offense that scores 26, 28, 30 points a game, and you have no way to close out a game because you can't get off the field because you have no pass rush. Max Crosby's a difference maker that way. Now, Downs, we were talking to Darren Woodson again about Downs and these other safeties and stuff. And Darren Woodson was the original Caleb Downs. He really was. He played in the slot. He played deep, played linebacker. He rushed the passer. I mean, he did all these things. Like in the early 2000s, in the 90s, Darren Woodson was Caleb Downs. And that's why he's up for a Hall of Fame. And you would hope that if you drafted Caleb Downs, that he would have a very similar career to what Darren Woodson had. That would be ideal in a lot of ways.
Bryan, on your board, you have Jamal McCoy ranked higher than Mansour Delane, right?
I do.
Sleeper Cowboy says, at Sleeper Cowboys, hey, if y'all want to tell somebody in the sleeper marketing department, it should be nice to throw a little bread at old Doing All Right podcast, if y'all want to. Sleeper Cowboy said, because on my board, he's higher as well. I got McCoy higher. Sleeper Cowboy says, if Jamal McCoy works out and is cleared medically before the draft,
which I think he will be.
He should.
I think he will be. I think he will be.
Say they're both on the board at 12, Bryan. Mansour Delane and Jamal McCoy. Do you follow your board or do you go with the guy with the less history of injury?
I think I'm taking McCoy. That's who I'm taking. If McCoy, there's a reason why. I mean, I watched that 24 tape. Yeah. And I mean, there's some games where you watch him just shut down people. Delane could do the same thing. But it's 25 tape. I know there's people out there that are very much against McCoy because you didn't see any 25 tape. You saw 24 tape. But if he's cleared medically and all indications are he's working with trainers and he's working with workout guys to handle stuff on getting ready to run 40s, getting ready to do drills and stuff like that. It's not like what we've seen with Revel, who we're waiting. We never saw a workout. Never, it's like, okay, we'll see him in the summer, this kind of thing, all that. This guy will be testing. And I think once everybody sees him test, I think the people who have the questions about him will probably have him above Delane.
I agree, Brian.
Yeah.
It's nerve-wracking when you got corners and Rebel's knee was hurting. Bland's foot is hurting right now. Caleb Carson can't stay healthy to save his life. You know, your healthiest corners are Reddy and Weezy, you know? So I understand people's concern, sleepers' concern. And for that, I mean, that may push me to draft Mansour over Jamal McCoy. But
I can understand.
Yeah.
I could clearly understand why somebody would do that. Delane is everything they wished that Mo Claiborne was going to be.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
That's really, I mean, and listen, I've seen Delane play all year. I mean, and he is incredible.
Yeah.
And now you've got a coach on staff that recruited him to Virginia Tech. So once again, here's your insight, you know?
Yeah.
Here's the coach stepping up and saying, hey, when we recruited this kid, he's this, and this. You know, and Jerry's got the glasses on the end of the nose, and he's looking over him, and he's like nodding his head, and Steven's nodding his head, and you know, here we go. So, but I have a feeling that McCoy, I kind of feel like that if Revel wouldn't have got hurt in training camp, we'd have had a better understanding of where this was all at. You know, I think that injury set him back in training camp, and I think also too. You know, when he came back against the Raiders, it was in that weird stretch where they were playing like all these games in a row.
Yeah.
And I think it really hurt him by the time we got to the end of the season.
Yeah. Brian, on that same topic, Marcus on Twitter says, Brian, say you draft Mansour Delane at 12, right? Cowboys got a bunch of needs. You kind of need to diversify the room a little bit, but teams suck at drafting, and they're kind of nervous about the Jamal McCoy knee, so he falls to 20. Now, Brian, there's no way Jamal McCoy falls to 20, but hey, you never know what's going to happen when we show up to work on that Thursday, Brian. There's no way that you double down on corner if you take Delane at 12 and Mansour is at 20, right?
Man.
Because Voch would, and I'm phony, but go ahead.
You're going to take two players inside my top 15.
Yep.
Is what you're going to do.
Basically.
You're probably going to take a guy. You're probably looking at somewhere 6 and 7, and then taking 13, 14 is what you're looking at for me. Yep. You know, I mean, it's going to be. I would double down on the damn edges. If you told me I could take Bain and Messidor both from Miami, I'd double down on those guys. I'd double down on Bailey and Messidor is what I would do.
Yeah.
You know, but, and hopefully, as we've talked about earlier, the Jay Glazer proclamation that they'll be aggressive, that maybe they'll have some of these things addressed, and maybe it'll allow them to double dip at some positions that, like I say, the cornerback, the edge, linebacker, that might be something that we see them do.
Brian, Matt Owen says, name one guy that's projected to go round 1 that will go significantly later than expected. Which one of your first round grades do you think could fall a ridiculous amount? Or some player that, I don't know, Daniel Jeremiah or something talking about being a first round guy and that they're going to fall significantly?
That's a good question because I'm looking through them. I think that people have some questions about Cisse, the corner from South Carolina.
Yeah.
And I mean questions of like, okay, he's 20 years old. Where is he at in his game? There's clearly some things he does really, really, really well. And then there's things you're like, well, he's just a young guy, but I have him in the first round and I have him over Terrell from Clemson.
Sure.
And that's where maybe there's a lot more people in the media scout world. Maybe they have Terrell over Cisse, but me, I kind of feel like that might be one that we look back on it and like, wow, he went a little bit later than where I had him on my board.
All right, Brian, we got the Doing All Right question of the day, man. And look, Smalls HD just keeps stepping on y'all, man. Y'all need to try to get him. He just keep getting y'all. Brian, we've been talking about this Daniel Jeremiah doomsday scenario, right? Small says this. These are your two options.
Okay.
Would you take a reach at 12, or would you trade back for low value? Would you make a trade to get out of there, but you lose in the value department? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like you trade back from 12 to 19, and you get a 4 or something. Would you rather trade back and do that, or would you rather take a player that you probably wouldn't want to take at 12 overall?
Okay, so I've got. It's going to turn out I'm going to have 14 first round grades.
Mm-hmm.
So at 12, I've got to determine who the guys, and
I got you.
If I had to bet,
these are
if
your
I
guys.
had to bet,
these are your guys.
yeah. If I had,
let's say Jordan Tyson and Spencer Fano are your two guys. Those are your last two. Jordan Tyson and Spencer Fano. Would you trade back for less value, or would you reach for like Cassius Howell or something right there at 12?
So I could take Fano, right?
You can take Fano.
I could take Fano.
You can take Fano.
I don't consider that a reach.
Sure.
I don't consider it a reach.
Well, he wouldn't be a reach. He would be drafting somebody you don't want. So you could draft. So like theoretically, right? That's why Voch be rewording these, right? Because in real life, I'll just take Jordan Tyson and just move on my life. Right?
I take either one of those guys. I don't consider either one of them a reach.
But let's say
take Howell at 12.
Yeah, let's say
Howell at 12.
Let's say Jerry gave you clear instructions that we're going defense, and we're in Daniel Jeremiah land, and your options are Colton Hood, or you could take like Cassius Howell or something, or would you trade back to 19 and only get a 4 back? Or a late 3?
I'll take the player.
I would too, Brian.
I'll take the player.
I would too.
I will. I'm comfortable enough taking Hood from Tennessee, the corner, Howell, the edge rusher, linebacker from Texas A&M. Both those players help me. And so I'm not, but both of those players are legitimate, reach kind of guys. So, I would say that's kind of where I'm at right now, but I would take both those guys. I would. I'd take either one of those guys. So I think I wouldn't drop back. I would just go ahead and make the pick.
Yeah, I'm fearless in that way, Brian. Because if it's me, I'm taking Jordan Tyson. I'm taking and just plugging those guys in. So I'm never getting wiped out theoretically. Even in that scenario, Jeremiah ran by us. I'll take Cisse. It don't bother me in that way. Like if they're ranked highly enough on my board and I see them in that way, then I don't have an issue taking them. The offensive player or whatever. But I ain't really trying to trade back, man. I'm just trying to get the dudes. Give me the dudes and we'll just run it. Man,
yep, I agree.
Brian, I appreciate you, man. For all your insight, bumping into them people at Radio Row. You gonna be back tomorrow?
I'll be back in the studio tomorrow, man. Look forward to you. I get home about midnight tonight. We got 5 hours of radio today. We got a lot of really good guests as well. Hopefully, we'll have some more guys there and gals that make some comments that we can sure talk about. I do appreciate Jay Glazer's honesty about it. I think it's fascinating that he's kind of very much on board with Jerry spending money and not so sure about George Pickens being a Dallas Cowboy. So, stay tuned. It should be a fun off season.
Now, Brian, you're gonna be doing some traveling or whatever. You know what I'm saying? This your show. You can call in if you want to. You know what I'm saying? If you're gonna be too tired, you can call in if you want.
Nah, man, I miss the studio. I miss seeing you. Yeah. I miss seeing Zach and Caitlin. Steve. I'm cool, man. I gotta go see. Gotta get back with my baby and see what she's all about.
Understood, Mr. Wolf. And we'll have Brian in the chair tomorrow. Then y'all be sure to tap in. Let me guys a little homework for y'all, man. Let me tap in with y'all. Make sure y'all on your P's and Q's here. Everybody, write this down. This will be on the test tomorrow, February 6th. We're gonna talk about Connor Lew, the center from Auburn. I like him, Brian. I
do too.
LT Overton, the edge from Bama. I don't like him too much.
I'm hanging on there.
Josiah Trotter, linebacker from Missouri. I'll give you a report on him tomorrow. And Chris Johnson, the cornerback from San Diego State. Those are the four.
This is going to be an interesting. Chris Johnson's going to be an interesting discussion, I think.
Hey man, we're gonna meet up here and we're gonna figure it all out, break it all down, and we're gonna see what the business is. Okay, we love y'all to pieces. For anything that you're looking for, hey Voch, where can I find the X? Where can I find the Y? Where can I find the Z? It is on crownglobalmedia.com. Everything that you're looking for is up on the website. Go over there, check it out. Brian's still working on his platform over there, so he's Crown Global Media on Twitter. I'm Voch Lombardi on Twitter. Okay, and be on the lookout, man. We're gonna be posting different links and to different pages and other stuff that we're doing. So y'all keep your eyes open. We're gonna be updating you on something different every day. All right, do your homework and we'll tap in with y'all tomorrow. Until next time, Crown.